Hi everybody. This morning I'd like us to look together at a poem called Bonsai by Billy Collins. It should be there on your screen. This is my first video, so bear with me. I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you can take a couple of minutes to read this poem through. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Read it through as many times as you can. Okay, hopefully you got through that a couple of times. And it's really important in poetry that you make sure that you know the definition of any word used in the poem that's unfamiliar to you. Sometimes I even look up words that I feel like I know very well because I want to understand the sense of the word as the poet intends it in this particular situation. So I went ahead and looked up the few words in this poem I thought you might need a little assistance with. So let's see if I can change this slide. There it is. Okay, so a cistern is just a reservoir or container for storing water. A trough is a depression or hollow as between two waves. And spindrift is spray swept up by a wind along the surface of the sea. So it's essentially the wind picking up the water and flinging it back at the sea. And that hopefully helps you to understand the poem. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take a moment and read it through together. Read with me. Bonsai. All it takes is one to throw a room completely out of whack. Over by the window, it looks hundreds of yards away, a lone stark gesture of wood on the distant cliff of a table. Up close it draws you in, cuts everything down to its size. Look at it from the doorway, and the world dilates and bloats. The button lying next to it is now a pearl wheel. The book of matches is a raft, and the coffee cup a cistern to catch the same rain that moistens its small plot of dark, mossy earth. For it even carries its own weather, leaning away from a fierce wind that somehow blows through the calm tropics of this room. The way it bends inland at the elbow makes me want to inch my way to the very top of its spiky greenery, hold on for dear life, and watch the sea storm rage, hoping for a tiny whale to appear. I want to see her plunging forward through the troughs, tunneling under the foam and spindrift on her annual 1,000-mile journey. Okay, so it's not going to work. So let's look at it together quickly. In this case, the title of the poem is really important because if you disregard the title and jump right into the reading of the poem, those first two lines, all it takes is one to throw a room completely out of whack, are going to be disorienting. You're not going to know what is being talked about. So hopefully when you saw the title, you knew what a bonsai tree is, and then you set about reading the poem with that in mind. And you can see that it proceeds as pretty much a description, not so much of the tree, but of how the tree changes the environment around it, the perspective of this tiny tree in this big room, and how all the objects near it are sort of relative to the tree, and they look different as a result of that proximity. And so the poem continues on all about the tree and the environment of the tree until about the third to last stanza, where suddenly the speaker introduces this idea of climbing up to the top of the bonsai tree and looking out over the ocean and imagining the storms that have helped shape this tree and picturing a whale in the water. And then the poem shifts to the whale. I want to see her plunging forward through the troughs, tunneling under the foam and spindrift on her annual 1,000-mile journey. So if you say, okay, well, I understand this. This is describing the tree and then imagining this whale, and that's what the poem is about, done. If you stop there, I think you miss a lot of what the poem has to offer. Because the next question, I think, should be, what is the point of taking us from this object to that one? Why do we start with a bonsai tree and end up thinking about a whale? What is the poet's purpose? What does he want us to think about? What connections can we make between where the poem begins and where the poem ends? And that's the work for the reader to do. So that's what I would like to ask of you. One of two things. I'm going to ask you or assign you to respond to that question. What is the purpose? Why do you think he starts with the tree and ends with the whale? What connections are we supposed to make? What things do you see in common between those two objects? I'm either going to ask you to have a written response to that, or I'm going to ask you to prepare some ideas to contribute in a class discussion when we get together and discuss this poem. So I'm going to end the video here, and I will tell you when I see you or when I assign this which way I'd like you to go, whether written or just prepare some remarks. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.